Hello, everyone. So we're transitioning into discussing about what we're doing next. And for that, I would like to invite our partners from TCS and Mr. Hasit Kaji, who's going to talk us about his own efforts and our collaboration in India right now. Hasit.
Thank you, Ramesh. I think in the morning so far, we heard very different perspectives, right from what really emerging worlds is all about, how innovation needs to be looked at both from a practice and science perspective. And then many of the speakers highlighted the opportunities that we have in front of us. So what I'm about to share with you is an instance of what has been set up over the past 6 months in emerging world in India, and how that's enabling some of the grand challenges and real high societal impact efforts to be realized. The way I'm going to do this session is going to give you an overview of what we are doing. We are then going to be joined by our teams at the Digital Impact Square, and you're seeing them right there on the screen. They are connected live with us, and two of the teams there are going to share with us as to what they are doing on some of the problems that they are working on today. I would then be joined by Prateek, who is going to share with us as to how the Media Lab is going to leverage the Digital Impact Square going forward, and how we are collaborating to really work on some challenging opportunities. And finally, Pashon, who's there seated behind, is going to talk to us about her experience at Digital Impact Square. So that's generally the flow that we're going to have. So the whole essence of creating Digital Impact Square as a sustainable platform for continuous innovation, I think really came from the success that we had in building trust. I think right through the morning, I think we heard that it's all about creating an ecosystem. It's all about the community. You can't just do it yourself. And I think what Kumbhathon, MIT Media Lab, and some of the partners, we collectively demonstrated is how can one create a huge impact on an event where large number of people gather in a city, and we were really able to use innovation to solve typical challenges that one faces when a large gathering comes to a city. So with the trust that was built through this example, we set up the Innovation Center with the core purpose of, one, that it is all about innovating for billions. And I think I fully agree with the point that was made, that the first step is about millions, and then you scale to billions. So that's the very spirit that in which the whole center is operating. It's all about enhancing lives. At the end of the day, if you're not able to impact the lives of people, make them better, I don't think we'll fail on our purpose. Equally important is about creating a culture of innovation. And I think it's not about sporadic innovations that happens in different parts of the city or different parts of the country, but how such centers actually foster a culture of innovation is extremely critical, and it sees it as a charter. A very important, and I think we've seen stats as to how the number of graduates that are now joining startups is growing. And I think that's the trend that we are also seeing in India, and I'm sure it's there in other parts of the world. But I think walking that journey at a very early stage of one's career, I think makes a big difference. And how somebody with a great idea can walk through that journey to become an entrepreneur in the process fail a few times is what, again, the center enables. The whole MIT Media Lab collaborations and the collaboration with other academic and corporates, like some of you over here and others, is how we can collectively deploy some of the disruptive technologies into for such innovations, right? And make a difference. And finally, can we craft together grand challenges that can create path-breaking research? So these are the key charters of the Innovation Center. And the way we've gone about doing this is actually creating a collaborative ecosystem consisting of the innovators, the citizens, the government, the local government, academic, and corporates, all coming together to actually work on every challenge. So this is not about a startup with a great idea, sitting in an incubation center and kind of thinking through as to how to make the next big impact. This is about getting everybody immersed. And I spoke of the comb of innovation, right? I mean, it's really now that comb which is converted into a playground where all of us come together and work on creating the impact. Okay, fine. So this was just to give what the video had. So it was when the municipal commissioner of the city of Nasik visited our center, he brought with him about 20 of his direct officers to the center. And his key message was that, look, we have a boring job. We keep doing the same thing again and again. We don't get an opportunity to think outside of what we are doing, and which is really necessary because we are not able to help change the lives of people. So I would encourage all of you to come to this center, be with the young innovators, mentors, and really help in defining how the lives of people in the city could change for the future, right? So that's the video where he clearly gave that message to his entire team. Okay? And that reflects the kind of commitment that one looks for from the local administration to make such events, such initiatives successful. So what are we working on? I think the key 7 themes are really the fabric of our lives. They really, every area makes an impact to what we do. And I will quickly cover what in each of the themes, the challenges that we are currently working on. And I think it resonates with some of the things that we earlier spoke about. So, and I'm, in India, like in many other countries, one of the biggest challenge that we have is that many children do not get the required immunization doses in their early formidable age. So how can we achieve 100% immunization and 100% institutional delivery? Because the whole mortality rate, if one really wants to reduce, then you need these innovations to really fructify. Zero loss of life due to lack of blood is, again, an extremely important. The whole gap between the supply of blood and the recipients, there is a huge gap, and how can we bridge that through innovation? There are a couple of MIT Media Lab, as I was mentioning, and Pratik is going to talk more about it, is about preventive blindness, for example. So there is research that's happening here, and they're going to leverage DISQ to further the research and potentially implement the first set of solution out there in the city. When we look at education, eliminating school dropouts, enhancing child learning abilities, and then when we spoke of, we recently spoke about the financial inclusion, so sustainable living of self-help groups. I think that's a very key challenge in India. How do we make the self-help groups acquire the right skills, their ability to find and launch the businesses, and the visibility of what they do is something that we need to solve. And just like financial security, I think the personal security of the citizens, and especially women today, which, where often there are challenges they face. So for example, if you give the same phone app for a woman to dial an SOS, to get the phone out of the purse could be a challenge. So what alternatives does one have to address such issues? Non-revenue water, a big opportunity, I think, especially for the government. So when we look at these challenges, and I just want to pause that, many of these challenges are from a citizen perspective, but also I think it's very important that we solve challenges that helps the administration to do better and actually earn revenue without possibly increasing prices, etc. So one way is, in this example, is reducing the non-revenue water from about 45% today to less than 30%. Farming is a big sector in India, contributes significantly to the GDP of the country. And there are two problems, or the two challenges that we are addressing there. One is about helping the farmer improve their ability to test the soil, both from a nutrients perspective as well as the amount of water that is needed for a particular crop cycle. And the other is, can we disrupt the supply chain in a way that the layers between the farmer and the consumer is significantly reduced, and thereby increasing the revenue potential of that farmer. We had a great example of the whole garbage collection, and I think that's a problem in many parts of the world, so trying to address that. Sustainable city living is again something which is extremely critical, and the whole ability to find unique street addresses, and again that's something that Prateek will share more about it. This is how the center is, and I think you're seeing the team there. So it's a great place that really fosters thinking beyond. We're well connected, as we can see here today, connected with the MIT Media Lab, so that we can regularly have some of the researchers here mentoring the teams in India. And if we are really working on societal issues, we are working on things that impacts billions of lives, I think it's very important that we understand the human aspect of how innovation is going to impact. And hence, design is an integral part of what we are doing. It's not an afterthought, it's a very essence of our whole process. And the use of agile methods to really accelerate the speed in which we innovate, or if we fail, then the speed and the agility is extremely critical. One thing that I didn't mention so far is that every challenge that we work on, we've given a timeline of about a year in which the innovators demonstrate a working prototype. So it's a fairly time-bound approach to addressing some of the challenges. So where we are, we have currently 40 innovators at the center. They come from different parts of the country today. In the future, we look at students from global universities to be at the center. They come from a diverse background, and we've always said that we are not going to restrict, let the challenge define the type of background of students and other skills that are needed. We've rolled out the next set of challenges and the applications for those, and currently we have roughly about 1,600 aspirants who are looking to join the center this year, from which we will select roughly about 160. So that's the kind of ratio with which we work. And we've worked out a collaboration as part of our collaboration model. Many of the successful innovators who demonstrate their prototype to be at a level that would have a huge impact on people would come here at MIT to further their understanding of how they can enrich their solutions, and then go back and take it forward. So about 10 of them every year would come down to MIT for that. So that's in an essence of what Digital Impact Square is all about. So it's a great collaboration effort with MIT Media Lab. And as I said, I think it's a great example that we believe will really take the whole vision forward. And with that, I look at the team from Nasik to join us and share a couple of examples of the projects that we are working there. Sandeep?
Okay. So while we fix that thing, I'm going to segue into my section. So first of all, I thank the audience for bearing with me, and the session, it's gone slightly longer. I know all you want your coffee break and your water, and it'll be great. First, I want to take a quick moment thanking Hasit. Hasit is the Vice President of Special Initiatives at TCS, and he has been the man behind, amongst Lakshmi, Hanu, and Sandeep, etc., who has literally worked day and night to make this DISQ Innovation Center a reality. So we appreciate the work, Hasit, you have done. And very quickly, it's incredible that I'm standing here and with Hasit and Ramesh with this moment, because my personal journey is like I grew up in India, obviously, moved to the States like 15, 20 years back, and started research. And then more recently, I was at the Broad Institute. And doing research and development in India was something that I always wanted to do. And in all other emerging countries, I did a nonprofit in Africa before coming here. But I really didn't know how to plug into it. Like, how do you sit at MIT or in the United States and do meaningful research that is cross-border and cross-cutting? And on some of my recent trips with India actually exposed me to the opportunity to do that kind of work. And I took a quote out of Ramesh's book. It's called Here, There, and Together. So in the Nasik Innovation Center that Hasit mentioned, there are 3 MIT Media Lab teams which are currently housed in camera culture, and by no means are restricted only to camera culture. We invite everybody in the audience, especially Media Lab members, to make use of this incredible innovation center, which allows you to be in the United States and have teams of people working on really important problems all over the world. So I'm going to very briefly go through 3 projects. The first one that we are doing with the DISQ Innovation Center is called I label it, or preventable blindness. So we have come up with this completely new system, and this is led by Tristan Swedish and Shantanu Sinha. Both of them are graduate students in the lab and Tata fellows. And the idea is that how can we use retinal imaging combined with health matrix, big data, and develop cutting-edge algorithms to do longitudinal studies to understand predictive health analysis of the eye. So as many of you know, the back of the eye, especially the retina, can be illuminated with relatively low-cost devices, as well as expensive fundus cameras. And by illuminating the retina, you can get a lot of information about the optic nerve that sits there, the devascularization of the blood vessels, and those things can be screened for diabetic retinopathy, which affects millions of people all over the world, especially in emerging countries. And so we have come up with a 2 hardware-software combo platform, where Shantanu Sinha, the graduate student in the group, is developing a slit lamp prototype that sits on a mobile phone, and the patient can self-take a retinal or anterior segment of the eye sections. And Tristan Swedish works more on the data side, where Tristan is coming up with completely new ways to collect retinal images and then use machine learning to annotate those retinal images and build a big data pipeline. So that's ending preventable blindness. Hardware-software combo, retinal imaging, powered by deep learning and AI. The second project I'm doing with Utkrish Gupta, I just saw Utkrish in the room. Utkrish is another graduate student in the group, and I'm working with him. And we are coming up, as many of you know, we are calling it, in typical MIT fashion, support vector humans, a code name. So we know that AI, machine learning, et cetera, has come up with completely new ways to take big data and organize it in a very structured way. And some of those applications are on the left. But we are coming up with new ways, actually, to understand how machine learning can be split into 2 different locations and can be run in parallel, where the big data needs are provided by one partner and the computation needs are provided by the other partner. So we are working on that very exciting project. And a part of the project will also automate reading of X-rays, MRIs, etc., in a very low-cost, high-throughput manner. The third project which Ramesh is personally involved in, and Nikhil Nayak and Achyuta from the group are also very involved in, is this. Can anybody tell me why I have highlighted some words on this slide? Anyone from the audience? What's unusual about these addresses? Okay, sure. Exactly. So the challenge is that while we have zip codes and we have house numbers and street numbers, many countries in the world, including India and Africa, have landmarks as predominant determinants for people to move from A to B. And those landmarks usually are not accurate, or people get lost, or it's not a very structured way to map a city and addresses. So we are coming up with completely new ways to map cities, and starting with this test city in India called Nasik, where the DISQ Innovation Center is, where digital addresses will be assigned and mapped. So we're calling this project Map Me. So in essence, and the world is our lab, as we say at MIT and the Media Lab, and together we can come up with these new areas and new challenges that we at MIT and in the United States have always thought about solving, because we know these are big challenges, and as Ramesh says, billion-dollar opportunities with millions of people to impact it, and we didn't know how to plug into those challenges, because we really thought to do those things, we have to be on the ground, move over there, which is obviously one route, but with the DISQ Innovation Center, with Hasit, Hanout, and the TCS Foundations Initiative, we have an opportunity to make these large contributions at MIT with teams of people who are split across two different locations to solve these problems. Thank you.
Yeah, Sandeep, can we start?
Can you
Yeah, we can hear you.
can you hear us?
Hi, Sandeep. We can hear you.
Maggie, are we audible?
Yeah, we can hear you. You sound great.
Great to hear you, Sandeep.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. I think it has been great session since morning. We've been talking about some of the bottom-up challenges, or the challenges which matters to the society and people. So I think we have two challenges which two teams are going to present here. So first team, let me invite Ankit to present the challenge they are working on around the soil health.
Hi, I'm Ankit. And yeah, so I'm part of Team Farms here. So we are working in the food and agriculture domain, and our focus is on soil health. So what we believe as a long-term goal for us is to enable informed decisions about soil health, to increase productivity, soil fertility, and optimizing the use of fertilizers. So if you look at the big picture, the challenge for us is to how do we support the food production. The food production estimates for 2015 are 218 million tons, but the per capita arable area is 0.15 hectares, which is supposed to increase to 350 million tons 2030, but the per capita arable area would decrease to 0.7 hectares. So that's a really big challenge for us to work on, because in order to support the population, we have to optimize the way we produce food right now. In terms of soil, what we have seen so far is that our consumption of fertilizer has increased. However, at the same time, we can also see that the number of elements that are deficient has increased from 1950 to 2016. So what we think right now, that in order to move forward, in order to have a trend decline, we have to make sure the fertilizer is used in a balanced manner. So currently the existing setup that we have seen in the Nasik district, the image on the left shows the Nasik district map and shows you the distribution of the soil testing labs. As you can see, the labs are distributed very unevenly. So this causes a problem for the farmers to get their soil tested. And also in terms of the load that each soil testing lab has. So one soil testing lab has close to 30,000 farmers. So that's a huge load, wherein the capacity of every soil testing lab is around 3,000 samples per year. Now, how do we solve this problem? So the way we have envisioned is to have a device based on the principle of edge computing, specifically because a lot of farms are not networked. So we have to make sure the processing happens at the edge, whereas the cloud is used to sync that data, the data which can then be used to analyze and report, which will help in accurate fertility mapping. whereas the data at the edge would help give farmers initial or immediate fertilizer recommendations. It would also give them the best crop prediction, which will help in helping the farmer understand what's the best crop suited to his soil. And all this will involve a lot of machine learning on the device part. At the soil, we'll have multiple sensors or multiple devices which can monitor the soil for various factors like nutrients or water, climate. And we are looking at currently different technologies that could help us in doing so. So that is where we are at right now. And in order to move ahead to get this on the field, we are in touch with multiple partners here. So I like to say that DISQ has been instrumental in the platform that it has provided us. Apart from that, we are in touch with farmers who are a key stakeholders. So we have access to close to 1,000 farmers who are helping us get the device to pilot. Apart from that, we have mentors helping us with science and technology part. So that's where we are at right now.
Thanks, Ankit. With that, we would like to move to the next team, who's working on the non-revenue water problem.
Hello, I'm Nikhil, and I'm working with the water team. Basically, we're trying to reduce non-revenue water by innovating through the water supply ecosystem. So the problem in India is 35% of all drinking water is lost before it reaches people. 68% of India's arable area is affected by drought. 302 out of 640 districts in India are in a state of drought this year. And India is looking to invest money into 130 million smart meters to replace the traditional meters by 2021. Also, 100 million people in India live in areas with poor quality water. Nashik as a city is still worrying. 8 out of 10 people in Nashik do not know how much they spend on water. 140 million liters per day is lost by Nashik Municipal Corporation every day. And about $15 million is how much Nashik Municipal Corporation can save by investing in frugal and better infrastructure. So what we are trying to do is make meter reading more accurate, reliable, and efficient so that all the 252 million liters are accounted for. We're also trying to become faster in finding and becoming aware of leaks so that all the water that is actually supplied reaches the 1.8 million people of Nashik. We're also trying to increase the consciousness of the people with regards to water, as many of them are not sure of it. How we are solving this problem is in two parts. One part is add-ons to traditional existing meters. These add-ons will make the existing meter smart. So they'll use technologies like OCR, fiber optics, and machine learning. The other option is to use frugal smart metering technologies. For leakage detection, we are trying to do faster leakage detection through analytics, mathematical modeling, robotic devices, and sensing technologies. Some of the sensing technologies include thermography, radio sensing, etc. So the people we are working with initially we're being incubated by DISQ. We work hand in hand with Nashik Municipal Corporation. We are being mentored by mentors from TCS Center of Excellence for Utilities. We're looking to work with MIT Media Labs and its various groups like Camera Culture, etc. And I'm done.
Thanks, Nikhil. With that, I will hand it over again to Hasit to take it forward.
Thanks, Sandeep. Pashon, if you can come forward. So I can't do enough justice in introducing Pashon, and I leave it to her. But she was part of the boot camp. She's a director's fellow, and she was part of the boot camp that we had in January. The whole purpose of that boot camp was to let MIT faculty, primary investigators, the innovators to actually immerse into what the challenges are, what do they mean, and the takeaways from there actually then come to the Innovation Center where they take things forward. So Pashon will share her experience of being at the center.
Good morning. My name is Pashon Murray, and I'll try to keep keep it short to 5 minutes. But I had an interesting experience because here in the United States, as far as being in Detroit, my focus is composting and helping corporations reduce their carbon footprint and getting them to basically analyze their waste streams. So with the experiences that I've had here, having a company that focuses on waste to energy and waste reduction, it was very interesting to be able to be invited to NASIC and look at pretty much the landscape, the people, and some of the challenges and issues that were going on in that city. And for me personally, I had my own little experiences because I would sneak off and just kind of look at the city and figure out how the Media Lab could actually integrate technology that would help with soil issues. And so I really took to my mentorship as far as the soil health group. And part of my, I guess, the attraction for me to soil health is we're dealing with a lot of issues around the country when it comes to waste streams and soil issues. And all of it's connected, soil and water. Everything is connected within that ecosystem. And personally, what I discovered is as I had some people take me around and tour the city, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of composting pilots or processes in place. And for me, that was exciting because I think that that's one solution. There's so many others that we have to work on to help with soil issues. But I think what farmers are experiencing right now is they may not have the means to test their soil. They may not know what's out there for them. And I think that the soil group, the soil health group, has an opportunity to build a sensor or a kit that is accessible to these farmers who may not have the means. And that's important all over the world because farmers are dealing with the same issues everywhere. But I think what's unique in NASIC is they have an opportunity to take this group and really explore all of the possibilities of what can be done around, creating soil solutions. And what we've also discovered is when we visited one of the local universities there, a lot of the commercial farmers, it was almost like they felt like it was a mandate for them because they were selling their crops on a larger scale, where the smaller farmer who may not be as educated, who didn't have the ability or know what was out there for them to overcome some of these issues, I think that there's an opportunity for that smaller farmer to rebuild their soil. And even though my focus is primarily composting in this country and waste streams, I think there we have an opportunity to build a new system that probably could be replicated anywhere. And I think the challenges around soil is you really have to understand the complexities of soil. So it's not just about having these sensors monitor what's going on, but you have to understand the exchanges of bacteria, what crops are they trying to grow, what's needed, and you have to map out a system that is going to be suitable for all farmers. But nutrients are one thing, contamination is something else, even though it's tied together. But I think if you can map out a system that you can start taking these fragmented areas where some of the commercial farmers are getting tested and some of the smaller farmers may not have that access, it's going to be important to tie all of them in together and integrate a system that's going to help all farmers. And I think that my experience there, I had an awesome time, talking to different people throughout the community who wanted to help. And that was the first major step. The second was there were so many leaders who talked to me about composting and waste systems and trying to figure out how to build solutions. And I think that all the talent was present in those rooms to actually accomplish the goals that they needed around, soil testing. So I'm looking forward to mentoring the students who are involved in soil health and connecting them to the Media Lab and helping them figure out which groups here in food and ag could be of a good resource to them. But I also think that we have to look at beyond the testing as well. Sure, you can create a system around, using sensors and whatnot, but you also have to look at what are we going to do after that. So when we figure out what those problems are, what are we going to do about composting and soil amendments and things of that nature. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm excited about what's coming down the pipeline as far as helping these students, and I'm really impressed with what they've come up with so far around what they want to do around soil health. And I'm looking forward to being of assistance to them. So I don't want to go beyond. I have some more to talk about, but I know I was told 5 minutes. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Pashon. So we would definitely invite Pashon to come back with us, and any other directors, fellows who want to come with us to emerging worlds are always welcome. So, good job, Pashon.
So just want to conclude the session. I think it's a great partnership with Emerging Worlds, and really would like to thank with all the collaboration that we have had.